Greetings from Doc Ock here at Black Facts Headquarters Central. Yes, we're having another bright and beautiful day today here on our noontime live stream. Welcome to the Tubular Black Facts channel. If you've never been here before, you're in for a real treat that just can't be beat, but I hope you can just hold on to your seat. Today marks the first day of the rest of our lives, because today I heard the news early in this morning that Juneteenth is about to become our newest federal holiday. Yeah, that's right. That means that come this time next year, if Juneteenth falls on a weekday, you will not be able to mail your letters out to P.O. You will not be going to work if you work at the courthouse, the Justice Center, etc., etc., etc. All federal employees will be getting a day off for Juneteenth. Now, the question is why? So before we go any deeper down that little rabbit hole, let's go ahead and do the needful so I don't have to go and get pleadful. We've been here doing this. We're coming up on our 600th live stream. We're just about there, y'all. We're at 580 something. We got about 20 more live streams to go, and you know we got 10 days left in the month at least. So we will be crossing that threshold before the end of the month, Jah willing. And in light of that fact, there's a couple things we need you to do, because we still need your support. Number one, if you're watching on Facebook, give us a like. Number two, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. And then go ahead and spread the word far and wide, north and south, east and west, all over the land, just like the woman we're getting ready to read about right here in un momentito, por favor, mi amigos y amigas. Yes, I'm talking about the one, the only Sojourner Truth. Yes, Sojourner Truth. You see her picture there on the screen, and now you see the cover of the book that we're reading, the narrative of Sojourner Truth. We're reading from her book. We're hearing her words coming to us across the span of time that has gone on, that has passed from the time that she entered the land of the ancestors back in 1883 all the way to the present, over 100 years ago since this sister passed. And so all this month, our theme has been Juneteenth. We need your support. Go ahead and give us those likes, those thumbs up, and then spread the word just like Sojourner did. Now, let's get on with the getting on. First and foremost, you know, we always have to come up with a proverb of the day. Let's see what we got here. Okay. All right. Okay, let's do this one here. However full the house, the hen finds a corner to lay in. However full the house, the hen finds a corner to lay in. Okay. Interesting. She's going to have that baby regardless. She just needs a corner to lay in. And that is a proverb from Sierra Leone. You know, Sierra Leone is one of those parts of Africa where the in some enslaved Africans returned to Africa, particularly to Sierra Leone and Liberia. In the case of Sierra Leone, they were mainly former British subjects, and in the case of Liberia, they were former enslaved Africans from the United States of America. In other words, right here. Matter of fact, we've got some local people who actually lived in Liberia. And we will be doing a interview with one of their relatives that we're going to be broadcasting before too long. But we also would like to do one specifically on that person. Okay. And we're not going to mention their name right now, but they are, if you are a Garveyite, then you already know who I'm talking about. If you're not, you know what they say. Those that know don't say, those that say don't know. But we're going to say, we know, and we're going to say, we're just not going to do it today. Oh, yeah, there we go. Now, we're continuing to read the narrative of Sojourner Truth, and we're now getting into her religious instruction. This should be quite profound and revealing because religion was a major part of Sojourner Truth's life. Her earthly life, and I'm sure it's still part of her life wherever she may be today in the land of the ancestors. Isabella and Peter, her youngest brother, remained with their parents, the legal property of Charles Ardenburgh, till his decease, which took place when Isabella was near 9 years old. After this event, she was often surprised to find her mother in tears, and when in her simplicity she inquired, "Mama, what makes you cry?" she would answer, "Oh, my child, I'm thinking of your brothers and sisters that have been sold away from me." And she would proceed to detail many circumstances respecting them. But Isabella long since concluded that it was the impending fate of her only remaining children, which her mother but too well understood. Even then, that called up those memories from the past and made them crucify her heart afresh. Yes, the thought of what might happen to the few children that she had left was almost as painful as that memory of those who had already gone. In the evening, when her mother's work was done, she would sit down under the sparkling vault of heaven, and calling her children to her, would talk to them of the only being that could effectually aid or protect them. Her teachings were delivered in Low Dutch, her only language. Remember, I said this before, that all this "ain't I a woman" stuff, that's not how Sojourner talked. She ain't talk like that. Okay? Because her mother tongue was Low Dutch, basically a Germanic type of language. And translated into English ran nearly as follows: "My children, there is a God who hears and sees you." "A God, Mama? Where does he live?" asked the children. "He lives in the sky," she replied. "And when you are beaten or cruelly treated or fall into any trouble, you must ask help of him, and he will always hear and help you." She taught them to kneel and say the Lord's Prayer. She entreated them to refrain from lying and stealing and to strive to obey their masters. At times, a groan would escape her, and she would break out in the language of the psalmist, "Oh Lord, how long? Oh Lord, how long?" And in reply to Isabella's question, "What ails your mama?" her only answer was, "Oh, a good deal ails me, enough ails me." Then again, she would point them to the stars and say in her peculiar language, "Those are the same stars, that is, the same moon that look down upon your brothers and sisters, and which they see as they look up to them, though they are ever so far away from us and each other." Thus, in her humble way did she endeavor to show them their heavenly Father as the only being who could protect them in their perilous condition. At the same time, she would strengthen and brighten the chain of family affection which she trusted extended itself sufficiently to connect the widely scattered members of her precious flock. These instructions of the mother were treasured up and held sacred by Isabella, as our future narrative will show. Interesting thing to remember here is that in the future, Isabella could not dream of the future where not only did God Almighty look down from those, did not only could her brothers and sisters see the very same moon and stars that she saw, but that one day, if they lived long enough and they looked up, they would see the planet Mars, where there was a small machine sent by men with Sojourner's name attached to it. The Sojourner Mars rover. I'm quite sure that Sojourner Truth never imagined anything like that would happen. Matter of fact, her most vivid visions would have been concerned with things much more mundane, such as the auction. At length, the never to be forgotten day of the terrible auction arrived, when the slaves, horses, and cattle of Charles Ardenburgh, now deceased, were to be put under the hammer and again change masters. Not only Isabella and Peter, but their mother was now destined to the auction block and would have been struck off with the rest to the highest bidder. But for the following circumstance, a question arose among the heirs: who shall be burdened with bone free? When we have sent away his faithful Mama Bet, he was becoming weak and infirm. His limbs were painfully rheumatic and distorted, more from exposure and hardship than from old age. Though he was several years older than Mama Bet, he was no longer considered of value, but must soon be a burden and care to someone. After some contention on the point at issue, none being willing to be burdened with him, it was finally agreed as most expedient for the heirs that the price of Mama Bet should be sacrificed, and she received her freedom on condition that she take care of and support her faithful James, faithful not only to her as a husband, but proverbially faithful as a slave to those who would not willingly sacrifice $1 for his comfort. Now that he had commenced his descent into the dark vale of decrepitude and suffering, this important decision was received as joyful news indeed to our ancient couple who were the objects of it and who were trying to prepare their hearts for a severe struggle, and one altogether new to them, as they had never before been separated. For though ignorant, helpless, crushed in spirit, and weighed down with hardship and cruel bereavement, they were still human, and their human hearts beat within them as true an affection as ever caused a human heart to beat, and their anticipated separation, now in the decline of life after the last child had been torn from them, must have been truly appalling. Another privilege was granted them, that of remaining occupants of the same dark, humid cellar I have before described. Otherwise, they were to support themselves as they best could, and as her mother was still able to do considerable work, and her father a little, they got on for some time very comfortably. The strangers who rented the house were humane people and very kind to them. They were not rich and owned no slaves. How long this state of things continued, we are unable to say, as Isabella had not then sufficiently cultivated her organ of time to calculate years or even weeks or hours. But she thinks her mother must have lived several years after the death of Master Charles. She remembers going to visit her parents some 3 or 4 times before the death of her mother, and a good deal of time seemed to her to intervene between each visit. At length, her mother's health began to decline. A fever sore made its ravages on one of her limbs, and the palsy began to shake her frame. Still, she and James tottered about, picking up a little here and there, which added to the mites contributed by their kind neighbors, sufficed to sustain life and drive famine from the door. And that is the end of our presentation for today. We'll pick up there on the morrow. So as with all of our books, we never get to read the whole thing, but we always start at the beginning, because oftentimes we hear about people when they became famous and what they did in their later lives, but we oftentimes miss out on that really crucial, important story, or those important stories of what happened to them and what molded and shaped them and made them the way they are. What was rattling around in their heads and their memory banks when they were going around the world and making speeches to thousands of people and speaking to the Queen of England and so on and so forth. So we always like to start off with, I'm looking to see if I can find, I'm looking for a book. I was supposed to have it here with me, but apparently I don't have it on this shelf today. Nope, not here right now, but we'll get to that later. Surprising, I can always find that book when I don't want it. But that concludes our presentation for today. You know we're going to be black tonight at 9, because this is Doc Ock at noon and 9 signing off. We've been coming to you every single day for over a year now at noon and 9. We've been coming to you on noontime on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, with pre-recorded presentations by a variety of people, including ourselves. And we've also been continue to do our live streams every week in the evenings at 9 o'clock for the children. So this is something that we've carved out, a space that we've carved out, a task that we have carved out to be completed. But in truth, it's a path that we were put on many long years ago. Many people who know me might think that it was my father that put me on this trail, but actually it was my mother, because she convinced me when I was but a mere youth that when the scholastic book order that I had brought home and already filled out was presented to her, that I make some changes in it. because the only books that I picked out were books that were about my heroes: George Washington, Abe Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson. Those were the three books that I remember that I had picked out that I really wanted. But my mother was like, well, why don't you get a book on the Underground Railroad? And I looked at her and said, the what? What, you talking about, a subway? I didn't even know what a subway was, but that's the only thing I could think of now that I could have related it to, because an Underground Railroad did not make sense. That did not compute. So she directed me to a book that was still in the catalog for Scholastic books on Harriet Tubman. Yep, it was called The Underground Railroad, and it was about Harriet Tubman. And she said I should get that book, and then I could pick out whichever other books I wanted to get on Abe and Thomas Jefferson or George Washington, whoever. I could get those books, but make sure to get this one on Harriet Tubman, because up until then, I loved reading biographies, but I was always reading about John Paul Jones and Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone and people like that. Those are the people that I looked up to when I was but a youth, in the town of Hiram, Ohio, a town some of you may or may not know, but at that time, there were only 300 people living in that town and one black family, and we were it. So you can imagine it was a kind of solitary existence as a black person there. And there was no black history in the curriculum whatsoever about anybody from there or anywhere else. It just didn't exist. The closest thing I got to it was that Scholastic catalog that had at least one book that I can recall about a black person in the catalog, because this was 1963, 64, somewhere around there. So what we're presenting here online is really not something that should be in addition to what is taught in the public schools. It should be the main course of study in the curricula in terms of learning about local people, black people, etc. Why is it that we are not included in the curriculum? So I pose that question to you today, and if you've been wondering the same thing, then we would like to get your continued support. If you've already supported us by giving us a like or a thumbs up on Facebook and YouTube, then the next step is to go ahead and become a sustaining member. You can do that by making a donation at our website, blakfacts.org. Donate buttons in the top right-hand corner, or you can do it on Facebook, and then there's a link on YouTube. So if you're using your phone, go to your notifications to find the link. If you're on your laptop or your desktop, it's right below in the description part, or maybe above, but it'll be in the description of each live stream on Facebook and YouTube. So go ahead, send those donations. It's important. And if you can go ahead and sign up to be a recurring member, that will make you, a recurring donation, that will make you a sustaining member of our Black Facts family, so that you can help us spread the word across the globe, because we're not a local live stream. We're live streaming to thousands of people all over the world. People contact me all the time from places as far flung as France, Denmark, Germany. That's my daughter usually. And all parts of the globe, from Africa, the Caribbean, etc. So we're sending these messages out, and they are being received. Our goal is to inspire others to pick up the mantle and do likewise with the local people in their area, because oftentimes they're being overlooked. So we're going to go ahead and sign off now and go to our extra. Peace out without a doubt. Of course, with justice, because anything less disgusts us. We want to be discussed, not disgusted. You know what I mean.